If you kind of combine all our exits together, it's worth about $17 billion. We were ranked last year as one of the top 10 VCs in the world in terms of consistency of performance. So they check you for 10 years, not just one VC, one fund. And in the last 3 years, we distributed about 600 million to our investors. So overall, they're relatively happy people. We operate from Jerusalem. JVP stands for Jerusalem Venture Partners. And we have an incubator both in Jerusalem for media-related and enterprise software, and in Beersheba for cybersecurity and big data. And that's about it. I can talk about us for hours, but you'd be bored. So the advertising world, you know, if Yahoo and, in Facebook and YouTube would be advertised in the 50s ways, that's probably what would look like. But the advertising world has dramatically changed. And I need you to, you don't have a clicker? Okay, sorry. Years ago, in the 90s, I used to work in the advertising world. I worked for Ogilvy, which Fogel Levin, and then I was a partner in Leo Burnett, Geller-Nessis. When I was in Ogilvy, it was probably in 94, something like that, 20 years ago. We had a client called Galgalei Zahav, Golden Wheels. It's buses with signs on them, and they had an issue how to prove that they're effective. And they said that their main target is to bring the Coca-Cola and Pepsi and the drinks companies, because they're the big spenders, to the buses. And they didn't come because they thought it's not a good place for a drink. So a friend of mine and I came up with this concept. We said, you know, let's, Ronnie Schneider, I'll give him the credit, let's just make up a drink that doesn't exist. And we came up, actually the first one was Bloody Miri, but it didn't, we weren't sure about that. And the second one, we thought it was Limonana. There wasn't such a thing 20 years ago. And we had this, probably all the buses in Israel had Gam Shoshana, Gam Ochana, Kulam Shotim Limonana. That's the clicker? Okay. Let's see how it works in a minute. And after 2 weeks that actually everybody was talking about where can I get limonana, etc., we send these boxes to the advertising agency saying, you know, with lemons and nana, the mint, and a couple of glasses saying, you know, there isn't such a drink, you have to prepare it yourself, and but it's effective. We were a bit stupid because we never wrote the name, so we just, everything, after that everybody started making limonanas. But that was a very, very primitive, a little bit creative, but very primitive way of showing what effectiveness is. And the world has been literally changed dramatically since. So what the advertising, if you look at it, what the holy grail of advertising would be the right message to the right person at the right time, at the right place, on the right device, and at the right price. If you get all this, that's what that's the bingo, that's the holy grail. And you know, I won't go through the whole map that you probably know, the Luma map, but you know, all these companies here, and probably hundreds more that are not appearing here, are trying to do just that, either to find the right creative, the right message, the right person, the right time, the right device, etc. So there's a huge ecosystem that is already working, but it's still growing in a relatively dramatic way. And I'd like to cover 10 of the trends that I think will be effective. And these are, by the way, companies we're looking at in terms of investments. That's what we're looking at in the advertising space. In cyber, it's different trends. In I don't know, storage, different trends. But in advertising, these are the things we look for. So first one is the trend that is changing from what I call from CPM to performance. CPM, cost per mil. So you pay per 1,000 impressions. And the world is already started changing a while ago to CPC, cost per click, CPA, cost per acquisition, CPI, cost per installation, and CPI, cost per lead. So what it means that advertisers are not willing to just buy something and hope for the good, maybe it'll work, maybe it's not. They would say, okay, I'm willing to buy if somebody will click on it. I'm willing to pay if somebody will download my app. I'm willing to pay for a lead. So advertisers became much more sophisticated and are looking at the dollar in a much more cautious way. And so there's a lot of companies now that are actually performance companies you may find CPM deals. But what's behind the CPM deals is what's called eCPM. It's effective CPM. So people are actually calculating how many displays they need to buy in order to eventually be effective. So one trend, again, I urge you to have a whole session just about that. It's an amazing field. There's a lot of ways to look at it. There's a lot of interesting companies in the field, quite a few Israeli ones as well. So it's definitely something to look at, both, by the way, from an advertising perspective and a publisher's perspective. The second trend is from media planning to real-time bidding, or what's called RTB. RTB, what it actually means is that you bid on a display in real time. And again, I apologize, I'm not sure. Some of you may know more, some of you may know less, so I'll try to be somewhere in the middle. So RTB means that you want an ad, you want a certain location, you bid on it on real time, and then the higher bidder gets the placement, and the ad then it goes to the server, bringing the ad, and the one who won that's the ad that is being showed. It's a very sophisticated, very quick market, but again, the world is going there, and it's definitely worth understanding how it goes. These are the ad spending forecasts for RTBs in the world. So, yeah, so let's say let's say you have a mobile application for. No, it's real life. So Get Taxi, all right? It's a mobile application. So they will go to a publisher, or it's not through a publisher. They go to RTB, and they will say, I'm willing to pay 10 cents or $0.25 or $2 per download, but I'm willing to pay an X amount of cents for that matter. I'll make it simple for one display, okay? I'm willing to pay 1 cent for one display. Uber will come and say, you know what, I'm willing to pay for this site, for this users, for this kind of demography, I'm willing to pay 2 cents. And then they will come there, the RTB will bid them. It may say, Get Taxi may say, I'm willing to go up to 3. So they will start with 1, Uber will come in 2, they will come in 3, and it happens in microseconds. They will win the bid, the Get Taxi ad will be there. So that's how the real-time bidding happens. It's actually real-time. Then there's the idea of this multi-device thing. So for many years, PC was the king, and most people kind of said, all right, online advertising is about PC, but it's actually going very dramatically to other devices. Mainly mobile is growing very quickly. One example I can give from our portfolio companies, a company called Celtic is doing mobile advertising, mobile marketing. They already have over 100 million users around the world. Quite a mature company in that perspective. And they do lock screens, and they do screen marketing. Again, I don't want to talk about what they do, because I can talk about that also for an hour. But overall, what they do is they enable you to control your mobile phone on your application from your lock screen. You don't have to unlock your phone at all. So everything you can do, you just drag these little things here. You drag it, you can see your mail, you can see your Facebook, you can see your Twitter, you can see the video of the day, whatever. Everything on the lock screen. You don't have to unlock. You have to go to the application to see news. All your alerts will be here, notifications. So it's a very convenient way, because the applications comes to you rather than you have to come to them. So this is really, in one sentence, what they do. Another trend is the move from display to video. What happened in the last few years is the fact that the broadband has actually penetrated most of the world now, and video you can actually watch video without buffering all the time, without stopping. The difference between a CPM for video and a CPM for display is usually 10x. So you would get, for 1,000 banners, you would get $1. For 1,000 videos, you will get probably $10 and more. Here, that's you go. You see what's the difference in the size. There's many trends, again, meetup of its own video, huge topic. There's recommendations. A company like Taboola is doing this, an Israeli company. There is redirection to sell points in video tagging, linking affiliates, and there's a lot of trends only in the video space. So definitely somebody who's want either to open a company in the space or already operating in the space or having an advertising agency slash service and then is doing only display now, definitely should move to video and understand how this market works. Another just example of one of our portfolio company, a company called AnyClip. What they do is they have a license from Hollywood studios. So they have Paramount, Warner, Universal, Lionsgate, these kind of guys. And they license their films. And the license is they can cut films to 2-minute clips. That's what they do. They have a technology that actually tags all the frames in the film. So let's say you have a couple sitting in a cafe. Everything within the frame will be tagged. You'll have red shoes, blue jeans, red hat, Coke on the table, I don't know, a Ford parking, a truck passing by, a sunset. All this within one frame would be tagged. Most of it automatically, some of it manually. And then they have a huge database of keywords that you can actually go and search and bring a relevant clip. What do? They have about, I don't know, tens of thousands of publishers now that, let's say, a travel example. So you're a travel site and you talk about Rome. Usually your monetization model will be through banners because you don't have video. You're just a blogger or you don't have the content. So what they do is they have a player, which is a size of a banner, which is 250 and 300. And they do two things. They do textual analysis to the page. So they read, so to speak, the page. They understand that you're talking about Rome. They go to the database. They say, okay, what do I have about Rome? I have a certain film which is relevant. I'll bring the film into my player. I'll put an ad before that. And everybody's happy. Publishers happy because they get $10 rather than $1. Users are happy because they get really good content that is related to the context of the page. Advertisers are happy because it's a premium video and they ad is on premium. And AnyClip is happy because they're kind of cutting something out of this deal. They're now the number 7th video site in the United States. So very big company now. It become from, again, and they did a pivot. I won't tell you the whole story. It's an interesting story of the company. They started with a C2C, they wanted to use these little clips in the middle for chats. So if instead of saying goodbye, I'll send you Schwarzenegger saying hasta la vista, beta. Big flop, didn't work. So we changed the whole model, did a pivot, and this one actually caught on. So again, startup world is something that is very dynamic, and you don't necessarily get it in the first job. Then there's the personalization aspect. So, in the old world, and the old world I mean also, 10 years ago, I'm not just talking about the, 70s. You would broadcast. You would say, okay, I'm looking for this kind of audiences. I want, males, 35 to 45 that are like sports, and I'll go to sports sites and advertise there. It's still broadcast. Yeah, you have some kind of segmentation, but not a serious one. Today, you can actually direct the targeting on a personal basis. And again, I'll give you an example of a company that we invested in. It's still an early stage company. Hopefully it will grow well, but the concept is interesting because they said, let's take bioinformatica, which is human genes. You have it in your body. And let's take these algorithms and create digital genes. So actually, each one of you have a digital gene. What it means that you are actually have this graph or a definition of whether it's not just you're a cool person, a geek person. Everybody has, within a cool person, there's a geek. But you're 90% cool, 9%, 90% cool, 8% geek, and maybe 2% hipster. And then your friend will be 70% cool, 10% geek, and 20% geek. So there's all these mixtures, but it's you. It's a very, very personalized kind of way of identifying a person. Now, what do you do with it? The main thing you can do with it is target users in a very, very specific way. So, because you know who they are, you know what they like. They do it by scraping their Facebook page and other social media. And the other interesting thing you can do with it, if it works, it's still in the lab, but early days show it works, excuse me, is that you can actually forecast things before somebody tells you anything about it. For example, if you know what kind of clip you saw, what music clip, so obviously there's a lot of things you say, okay, I like this music, I can tell you what other music you would like. But this technology can tell you if you like this clip, I can tell you what car you would buy or where you would go on your next trip to Europe. Because your gene is actually there's a lot of information about your gene, but you can actually correlation. That's why I call by the correlor, because it correlates stuff. So all this personalization aspects of understanding who the user are. And by the way, they don't know what your name is and what your social security is or what your phone is. There's no privacy issue, but they know that this IP or this kind of target audience is relevant for this ad or for this content, etc. Then another trend is the inflation in monetization methodologies. So I would say from one monetization model that was, either rating on TV or just how much you pay on a print on a newspaper, or even CPM on the web, to various things. Again, we don't have the time to go through all of them, but whether is in-text advertising, that you have a linked kind of word or a little pop-up that comes on the world, price comparisons, ad injections, lead generation, cashback, retargeting. Each one of them, it's a space. Each one of them, retargeting, just to give you an idea. Retargeting means that you've identified somebody, for example, who was in an e-commerce site. And let's say I was looking for a digital camera, and I looked at the Canon, and I had enough. I didn't buy it. I went then to yahoo.com and read some news. The banner that I will see on banner.com will be the Canon that I actually saw on shopping.com an hour before or a day before. So they will actually know who I am. They will follow me because they know I'm interested in this camera, and they will retarget me with their ad. So it's quite sophisticated world in terms of the monetization. Again, I think it's worth definitely a whole session just on that, because there's a lot of Israeli companies, by the way, who's doing all these stuff. Some of them is a bit dodgy, I have to say. So if you inject white space, for example, white space means that you find in a portal somewhere which is white, and you just inject an ad there without the publisher knowing about it. So that's why I call white space. It's dodgy. I mean, it's not very friendly. I'm not sure how it is legal in this way, but you are definitely you can get a lawsuit one way or another. But there are companies in the world who are doing it. Seventh trend is from static ads to dynamic ads. So if in the past you had an ad which you had generic headline, generic body copy, and standard image or logo, today you have a dynamic ad. So it's customizable headline. It changes on the time. It changes according to the user. It talks a lot about personalization as well. If you see it in New York, you get one ad. If you see it in Cincinnati, you get another ad. You'll see it in Tel Aviv, you get another one. For the same brand, for the same product, but you will see it differently. The body copy will different. If you're a guy, you will see one ad. If you're a woman, you'll see another ad. It will be dynamic. And these dynamic ads actually create much better performance in terms of CTR, click-through rates, CPA, etc. Another trend is, I call it, I don't know, from creative to analytics, the two sides of the brain. In the past, creative was, the king, so to speak. And it's not that today you don't need creative. You still need creative in order to attract somebody's attention or to make me be more interested. But the king now is analytics. your map, your KPIs, you're directed by analytics. And it's an amazing thing because you can know everything. There are all sorts of platforms that you can put, I don't know, 20 ads, different creatives, after an hour, and you put $1,000. You don't have to spend much. You put $1,000, 20 ads, after 1 hour, they will tell you, this ad gets the highest click-through rates, this ad makes the best response, and you say, okay, drop the 19, I'll go with this one, and that's it. So you don't have to spend time or money on too many A/B testing or on too many trials and errors with creative. So you have to have creative, but the one who will eventually decide for you which creative will win is actually analytics, because this is what the market is responding to. And every company today that deals some way or another with consumers, it can be mobile application, it can be portals, it can be anything that has some kind of interaction, analytics is crucial. Usually what we look in analytics is we are interested in the cost of acquisition. So, first, how many people, let's take an application for that matter. How many people download the app? From those who downloaded, how many became active users? From those active users, how many of them, what kind of retention rates they have? So how long do they stay with the application? What's their engagement rate? So once they go into the application, how much time and how involved are they with the application? What is the ratio between DAU and MAU, daily active users to monthly active users? Just to give an idea, 15% and above is okay. Below 15% on a consumer, it's not a good ratio between daily active users to monthly. So each one of these analytics has some kind of a benchmark that you can more or less know whether you're doing well or not with your application. And eventually, after you have the whole funnel, you have two numbers. You have the cost of acquisition of the user and the lifetime value of the user. So if the cost is $2 and the lifetime value is $190, no good. $210, yes, good. So that's the way. And part of the challenge of these kind of companies is how to reduce the cost of acquisition, how to extend the retention, and how to extend the lifetime value of a user. Ninth trend is from passive to responsive. And responsive, it doesn't mean that in the past, early 2000, people talked about lean back and lean forward, and if you're watching TV or you're working on the computer, which is part of it. But today we're talking about responsiveness to ads or to content. A lot of the advertising today is you don't even realize that you are part of an advertising campaign. For example, BuzzFeed. You see somebody published a post on Facebook, the 10 best hotels in the world. All right, 8 of them paid to BuzzFeed in order to be on this list. All right, you like these hotels because they're really nice and you think it's cool, you like it, you spread it around your friends, and before you know it, you're actually part of this campaign. You are responsive, you're helping these BuzzFeed to actually expand their reach to the audience for these hotels. It's not necessarily a bad thing. If you like the content, it's fine. But it is part of this ecosystem that has become today. Twitter, Instagram. There's a lot of marketing behind it. A lot of tweets that you see, a lot of the Instagram stuff. A lot of companies are behind it. So you won't even necessarily know and necessarily aware of it, but you are actually participating in many cases in a campaign of one brand or another. Sorry? Do you know Outbrain? Let's say, okay, so let's say you have somebody who is willing to pay you in order to bring traffic to their content, all right? And I'm saying, okay, if you publish this, it's a content, what are the 10 things or whatever? An advertising agency says, all right, this is a great thing about the next thing in whatever, in advertising. You like it as somebody who's involved in it, and you retweet it. Now, the origin can be paying for these kind of distribution that is happening actually through users. And again, I think it's part of the monetization, but it can be a trend. You know, I try to squeeze it to 10, so it will be kind of a round number. But definitely the move from, I would say, kind of classic advertising to content is something that is happening in a big way. And again, you don't really know where to draw the line today between ads and content, and what is the ad, what's the content, where it leads, what's the landing page looks like. All these things are very kind of blurred today, and you don't really, it's not a clear, it's not like in TV, you say, all right, stop, the show stops, now advertising, the show continues. In the web, I mean, the digital world, it's very, very not clear. The last trend I would say is from safe to fraud. There are estimations today that between 20 to 50% of advertising traffic today is bots, short of robots. What it means is that if you bought a campaign for $1,000 and you got, let's say, I don't know, 500 clicks, 250, 150 clicks, it's not human beings, it's machines. It gets worse because they also know how to download an app. So you say, okay, I'm willing to pay $2 to each user that will download my app. I don't know, out of 1,000 downloads, 300 of them is just machines. And you paid $300 or whatever, $600 for a machine that download your app. The issue is it's not just the money you threw away, but if I'm coming back to the analytics trend, you would say, you know, I have an issue because out of the 1,000 downloads, I only have 10% active users. I have an issue with my product, the UI, the UX, you know, all these meetings, what should we do? But actually you have a good retention because it's not 10%, it's not 100 from 1,000, it's 100 from 700, which is a great performance. So you actually don't know your real performance in the market because of these bots. It used to be, I would say, defined as fraud. Now the definition is becoming cybersecurity because it's actually a lot of hackers are in there. It's getting much, much more complicated. Just to give you an example, you can see one advertising on a portal. Behind this advertising, behind this banner, there will be 100 banners that nobody sees, but they, in the computer, in the server, they will show at, you know, it was on the homepage of this portal. So this portal, sometimes the publishers are aware of it, sometimes they don't, but they will show 10 displays, 100 displays, but physically there was only one. And there's all sorts of these kind of things in the fraud world of the cybersecurity and advertising. Again, something which is very hot these days, and more companies are kind of trying to solve these issues. So just to finish off, there's a common mistake, I should say, or I don't know, perception that Darwin said that the strongest will survive. He actually said something else. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. And advertising space is one of the fastest changing industries probably in the world. It is very quickly, things can change in a matter of weeks or months sometimes. Again, I can't cover everything. There's a whole issues of regulations that I didn't want to go into, but these are also all sorts of regulations are coming. You know, Google can make a decision and then, you know, Babylon can lose, I don't know, 80% of their business because of some kind of change in an in-app or add-on to browsers. So there's all sorts of things that are happening, and they're happening very, very quickly. The mobile trend is happening. The performance is happening. So all the things that I've discussed are interconnected. So you actually have to know pretty much all of these things in order to understand whether you have an interesting business or proposition. And if something changes, you have to change very quickly. I think that one of the reasons that Israel specifically is so strong in the advertising space worldwide is because of that reason, because we know how to react quickly, we know how to change, we're flexible, we're looking for opportunities, and apparently we're faster than the others. And I think this is one of the reasons that we have such a strong industry here in Israel. So that's about it. Hope I covered more or less everything. Thank you.